From AccuWeather.com, this is AccuWeather Daily, a brief host-read article. It's weather news in a nutshell. 118 years ago, an asteroid tore across the sky above a remote part of Siberia before erupting in a cataclysmic explosion. Eyewitnesses in the Tunguska region reported seeing the bright object and being knocked off their feet by the blast that followed. These are the few people who would be directly impacted by the largest asteroid strike in modern history. Nearly 20 years passed before a scientific expedition reached the isolated area in 1927. When researchers arrived, they found hundreds of square miles of flattened trees with scars on the landscape still evident to this day. NASA says the object was likely an asteroid about 130 feet in diameter that entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded about 6 miles above the ground, creating shock waves that were measured hundreds of miles from the site. More than a century later, the Tunguska event remains one of the most dramatic reminders of the danger posed by space rocks. June 30th is now recognized as International Asteroid Day, a yearly event declared by the United Nations General Assembly to raise awareness about asteroids, the need to find them, and the work underway to protect Earth from a potential future impact. Nick Moskowitz, a planetary astronomer at Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, and a mission scientist on NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, told AccuWeather that asteroids are more than distant objects moving through space. They are scientific clues to the early solar system, but they can also pose a real hazard. Moskowitz said he is especially interested in objects that come close to Earth. He said, "We have practical reasons for studying these objects because we know that these objects, from time to time, do hit Earth and pose a hazard to humanity. So we'd like to better understand that hazard and understand what could be done in the eventuality that we do find one of these things that could hit us." That question was at the heart of NASA's DART mission. Back in 2022, NASA intentionally crashed a spacecraft into Dimorphos, a small moonlet orbiting the larger asteroid Didymos. The asteroid system did not pose a threat to Earth, but it gave scientists a safe way to test whether a spacecraft could change an asteroid's path using a planetary defense method known as a kinetic impactor. Moskowitz said, "This was the first full-scale planetary defense experiment conducted by NASA a couple of years ago, where we essentially smashed a spacecraft into an asteroid to see what would happen." Now, the goal was to change the orbit of the moonlet around the larger asteroid. Before the impact, Moskowitz said the mission team predicted DART would change the orbital period by about 10 minutes, but the actual result was about 30 minutes. The mission also demonstrated that a spacecraft could autonomously guide itself toward a small asteroid at extremely high speed. Now, for planetary defense, that matters. If scientists were to discover an asteroid on a future collision course with Earth, an early push could be enough to alter its path and avoid impact. The key is finding the object far enough in advance. Moskowitz said planetary defense is still a relatively young field. The sort of rigorous scientific enterprise and engineering enterprise of planetary defense is relatively new. It's only been seriously undertaken and funded at a national level for about 15 or 20 years. DART was one test of one strategy. Other ideas include gravity tractors, solar sails, drilling into an asteroid to eject material, and more extreme explosive approaches. Some of those remain concepts, while others may be studied in future missions. A European Space Agency mission called Hera is already on the way to study the aftermath of DART up close. Moskowitz said Hera will help scientists understand what the impact actually did to Dimorphos, including whether the collision fractured the asteroid. At the same time, astronomers are preparing for a surge in asteroid discoveries. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile, an 8-meter telescope designed to repeatedly scan the sky, is expected to transform the way scientists detect moving objects in the solar system. Moskowitz said the observatory's Legacy Survey of Space and Time, known as LSST, is already changing the scale of the data astronomers must handle. As more asteroids are found, people may start to hear about them more often. Moskowitz said scientists currently know of about 1 million to 1.5 million objects in the solar system. By the time LSST is complete, he said that number could grow to about 10 million. The growing catalog of asteroids will help scientists better understand which objects pose risks, which are scientifically unusual, and how small bodies move through the solar system. Asteroid Day also comes as interest builds toward 2029, when the asteroid Apophis will make an exceptionally close flyby of Earth. Moskowitz described it as a once-in-a-millennium-like flyby, where an object that large gets that close to the Earth. The flyby is not expected to threaten Earth, but it will offer scientists and the public a rare chance to observe a large asteroid passing close by. For many people, the idea of an asteroid impact may feel remote. Tunguska happened in a sparsely populated region more than 100 years ago. But Moskowitz said Asteroid Day is meant to remind people that impacts are part of Earth's reality, even if they are rare. Now, that does not mean people should panic. Instead, he said that scientists are working to understand the risk in a measured way. These events do happen. They will happen again. And so we should be actively, and not in a panicked or chaotic way, but instead be very systematic about understanding the risk, characterizing the risk, and understanding what we can do to mitigate the risk. For scientists, June 30th is a reminder of the work still ahead. For the public, it's a chance to remember Tunguska, learn why astronomers keep searching the sky, and understand how asteroid discoveries may soon become much more common. That's all for now. You can find regional forecasts and more science-based articles at AccuWeather.com. And for your local forecast at your fingertips, download the free AccuWeather app. Enjoy the rest of your day, stay weather aware, and I'll be back tomorrow with more from AccuWeather.